In this video, we're going to take a look at a very tough and very powerful light, the Convoy L6. It was made with high quality materials, an XHP 70 Cree LED, it's waterproof, it's got an 8.4 volt driver, it's got heavy duty threads, a tactical ring, and a nice forward clicky tail switch. That means it turns on before it clicks. It's perfect flashlight for camping, for security guard. You can throw it in your car to leave it as a spare flashlight. It's very powerful, it can be used as a spotlight, or you can use its moonlight mode to just read papers in your car. In the next couple minutes, we'll go through an introduction and cover almost everything about the flashlight, and then we'll go into the details.
So it's a pretty simple light. It has 5 modes: ultra low, low, medium, high, and then back to ultra low. It doesn't matter what mode you're on. Anytime you turn it on and off, it's always going to stay on that mode. And if you double click that button, it goes to strobe. And this flashlight doesn't have SOS. So it has low battery protection, and when the battery gets really low, it starts to blink like this.
Here are the current draws I measured, and then my calculated run times. It can last 4 days on ultra low, over a day on low, and if you leave it on high, it only lasts about an hour. The beam angle of this thing is very tight, it's 9 degrees, and it's got an okay field angle, which is around 66 degrees. It has a lot of throw, and it's good as a spotlight or a searchlight for medium to long distance throws. Let's check out the L6. So it's a good searchlight as well because of the orange peel reflector, but it definitely has more punch or throw. A nice tighter, brighter, more intense beam. If you need to spot something far away, it'll do the trick. So let's compare the Skyray King, pointed at that house, versus the L6 pointed at that house. The Skyray King has a lot of light, but it doesn't have that punch. This one has that punch. So the L6 looks more intense when it's right up in front of you, and that same intense beam allows you to punch it way out super far distances.
Tail cap is 39.5, lower body's around 42, which is manageable, and then once you go over 47, that's where it feels really hot because your proteins denature. So you cannot hold it from the upper tube, but that's pretty perfect because this is the maximum amount of power that you can handle in a body this size and still be able to manage it. So you can hold on to anything that's 46 and below, otherwise it's going to feel too hot to hold and it's going to damage your proteins in your hand. So that feels pretty good. So your body knows that 47 and up will denature your proteins and basically burn your hand, and anything 46 and below your body has no problem with. So that's why you can hang on to the bottom of this and it just feels really nice and warm. But as soon as you go up here, it feels like it's burning you, and it definitely is. So you can hang on to this all night and just walk around forest, check things out, and that's gonna work. So I like how they've built this flashlight, and the amount of power in it and the build is perfect. It doesn't come with batteries, but you can buy some adapters and use your 18650s. If you're going to use 18650s, make sure you get something good because it pulls 4 amps. I recommend the Sanyo 3500 mAh battery. It gives you the most capacity and it can deliver 10 amps continuous, no problem. So Convoy has built a very strong flashlight. From the reflector to the threaded machine screws, the one-piece head, the nice LED in there, the water resistant side switch, super thick body, strong threads, square cut. Those things will never break. This glass lens is 3.14 millimeters thick. That's some thick glass. These guys didn't skimp on anything. Look at that. The brass rings, the side switch, tactical ring. Everything is made to a high quality standard, and if I designed it, I don't think I could have made anything better. Look how thick that tail is. You can drop it on the tail and nothing's going to happen. Just the fact that they added wires to bypass the springs to reduce the resistance and increase the efficiency of the flashlight just goes to show you how good they wanted to make this flashlight. This thing is probably better than the $200 flashlights that you can get out there, and I definitely recommend it if you want to buy a good flashlight. For $55 you can't get anything better than this. It's a good quality flashlight and I'd recommend it to all my family and friends. Who need a high powered flashlight get a big form factor.
So that wraps it up for the introduction. Now let's take a look at all the details, and we'll do a comparison, unboxing, beam shots, features, and teardown, and then conclusion. So in the comparison, we'll take a look at its features first, and then we can use that and compare it to the other flashlights. The first thing to note is that it has excellent illumination of most scenes. So if you're in a park, you can light the entire park up. If you're in a trail, you can light that all up. And the orange peel reflector makes it a very good trail light, so it lights straight down the middle and to the sides a little bit. So you can use it on the sidewalk or in the trail. You can kick it down to low and then just walk around no problem, and then go up to high if you really need lots of light. In a large field, it also illuminates the entire field no problem, and it lights up buildings and objects across the field pretty well. You can see everything. And then we'll take it to the farm, and the farm's pretty big, so it's starting to lose its effectiveness out towards the other end. It can only get about halfway. So if somebody's on your farm and they're about halfway across, you can see them. And I think if they're wearing brighter colors, you can probably see them almost all the way across. And then just across the street, it's got no problems because that's not very far for this thing. It can throw a lot further than. So let's take a look at something very far away, like this building. It's about half a kilometer away, and it lights it up pretty well. I can see the side of the building. If there's something on there I want to see, you can see that. So this is a beast of a thrower. If you want a light that's very powerful and throws very far, this is one to go with. The driver is also very good, and it has a high pulse width modulation frequency, and that's 13 kilohertz. So you won't see any flicker, and only a high-speed camera will capture that. Let's take a look at that L6 and compare it to the other options out there. Another high-powered flashlight is the Skyray King, which has 7 Cree LEDs instead of just 1, and that flashlight produces 10,000 lumens. So it's the only one that's brighter than the L6. The rest of them are like 1,000 lumens. So as a single LED flashlight, the L6 definitely is better than all those. It does that because its one LED has actually 4 emitters on it. So it's kind of like a multi-LED flashlight, except they crammed all 4 emitters right into one little square, so it makes it pretty bright. And since it's a brighter point source, the reflector can be bigger and take that light and throw it straight down the middle. That's what makes it a good thrower. So any of the XHP lights are going to be a good thrower because it's a more intense point source. And a very bright point source is what you need if you want to redirect the light and throw it down the middle. So you can see that in the distribution, it's got a nice tight 9-degree beam down the middle. It's not as good as the L2 or the C8 because those ones use smooth reflectors. The L6 has an orange peel reflector, so until they make a smooth reflector for the L6, you're not going to get a nice tight beam angle. So if you want a thrower, go with the L2, but if you want a very powerful light, go with the L6. In the future, they might come out with a smooth reflector, so you can upgrade your L6 and make it probably around 6 degrees, maybe even 5, and then it'll be a real thrower. So once again, that Convoy L6 has a pulse width modulation frequency of 13 kilohertz, and its user interface is pretty good. It's got a side switch and a tail switch. The next is the build quality, and this is a very waterproof light. You can drop it in the water, I wouldn't worry about it. All the seals are nice and tight. The thermal management is very good because it's a very large light. It's got pretty thick fins on the side. It gets warm, but it doesn't get burning hot, so that's why I gave it 10 out of 10. You can't get any better than that. Now if you compare the run times, it's pretty standard compared to the other ones, but its moonlight is very good and gives you 4 days straight. Not as good as the L2, because that's only one LED, but it's pretty good for a flashlight that puts out 4 times the amount of light as an L2. It's around $56, so the value for the dollar I'd say would be 10 out of 10. It's a very good light and it's worth every penny. It may seem expensive, but it's a lot of light for how much you pay for it. If you pay $150 for this thing, you're still probably getting a good deal. So finally, this is not your everyday carry or utility light. It's a high-powered light, very large, and it's used for searching large areas, and that's basically it. This would even be difficult to use to be working on your car, or in tight spaces, obviously. If you go on a lot of walks in the evenings, this thing would be perfect because it puts out a lot of light and it doesn't get that warm, so you can hold on to it and have a lot of light. For the smaller flashlights, you can't really go on trail walks with it if you want a lot of light, because if you leave it on high, it'll get very hot. You have to run it on low or medium to keep it at normal temperatures. The Skyray King is also a pretty good light for trail walking because it has a wide field angle. It's not as large as the L6, but it is still pretty big, so it's good for trail walking and searching large areas because it puts out a massive amount of light. So get the on-the-road M3 if you want an everyday carry, an S2 Plus if you just want everyday use, utility light in and around your car. Get the L2 if you want a real tight thrower without crazy amounts of power. And then get the L6 if you want crazy amounts of power, large search area in a very large form factor. And then get the Skyray King if you don't want that large light, but you still want quite a bit of power. It's probably a good balance between the S2 Plus and the L6. It's compact, but it's still powerful, and it's still large enough so that you can use it on medium and walk around with it. So you still have large amounts of light, and it's still small enough to stick in your cargo pockets. You got nice side cargo pocket on your pants.
Here we've got the Convoy L6 5000 Kelvin version. Let's take a look at this and see how well it works. We're going to put it through all the same tests and determine if this is a good flashlight or not. In my other videos, I've said that the Convoy S2 Plus is a great light and good build quality, very powerful, and for the price it was great. This one appears to be of equal build quality, good threads, good anodization. So what you get in the box is a tactical ring, and all you have to do is remove the ring in the back, put the tactical ring on, throw in some batteries, and away you go. So this is on turbo, and you can see the close tree, medium tree, further away tree, and then the super far tree over here on the left. So it's got enough power that even though it's got some distribution instead of a focused beam, it still lights up the tree pretty well with the Canon SX40HS. And since it's 3 times the power, it can actually punch pretty good. So this is ultra low. You can't see anything, but the flashlight lasts like 150 hours on this. This is low. You can see the small tree in front of us, and then the further away trees are very difficult to see with this. And we've got medium, where you can see the tree in front of us, the trees beside us, a little further away, and the really far tree on the left is pretty hard to see with this. And then you kick it up to turbo, and that allows you to see the tree that's a lot further away. So obviously the turbo is the way to go. So this is a good mix between flood and throw of a light, using 32 watts and giving you 4,000 lumens. For comparison, we'll use the M3 on turbo here. So the M3 on turbo can't really light anything up compared to the L6, which lights everything up. So we'll put them side by side. This is the M3, this is the L6. Obviously, the L6 is much brighter. And now we got the Convoy L2. It's a thrower, and let's see how well it goes. Oh yeah, that's like a laser beam. You can see the tree really close. It even blinds the camera. This is the medium tree we'll talk about here. And then we've got the middle farthest away tree. Lights that up no problem. So on ultra low, this thing's good for just walking down the sidewalk. Use it low even if you want. And then kick it up high if you really want to see far away. But with great power comes great responsibility. So you gotta kick it down to low if there's any cars on the road. Otherwise this thing will blind you. When the cars are gone, go ahead, kick it up to turbo again. So this is across the street, and this thing can definitely throw across the street, no problem. And then we'll try the M3. Here's the on-the-road M3. Can barely light it up. Let's check out the L6. So it's a good searchlight as well because of the orange peel reflector, but it definitely has more punch or throw. Nice, tighter, brighter, more intense beam. If you need to spot something far away, it'll do the trick. Skyray King lights up the field no problem. Lights up that house about half a kilometer away no problem. So let's put them side by side. That'll allow us to kind of compare them quickly. So let's compare the Skyray King, pointed at that house, versus the L6 pointed at that house. The Skyray King has a lot of light, but it doesn't have that punch. This one has that punch. We'll compare it to the M3. M3 is on the right. The M3 is not bad at close distances, but then it just starts to diminish as you get halfway across the field.
It's a third the wattage, so one would expect it to be less intense. Convoy S2 Plus is only as good as the M3. Cannot punch out towards that little house over there. Alright, so we're here in the park. It's a trail shot. L6. You can see that bridge, no problem. This thing is freaking bright. It's on ultra low. Low, can't see much. It's good for trail walking. Medium and high. Or turbo. Whatever you want to call it. Then we got the Skyray King here, which is also very bright. Skyray King has more spill to the sides in comparison with the L6. The L6 doesn't have as much spill, it's more light down the middle. Now we'll check out the Convoy L2. This one's a thrower, and it's like a little laser beam. You can see the tight beam, and it throws very far. You can see into the bushes, but it's only focused, so you're not going to be able to see too much to your sides. But it does have some spill, as you can see, and does allow you to walk down the trail if you wanted to use this to walk down the trail. But it's not a ideal light for trail walking because it's just too damn bright in the middle. It's going to blind you, glare you, and constrict your pupils, and then you won't be able to see as well. You'll lose your night vision. So a glary light like this, a focused light, is not good to use at nighttime if you want to maintain your night vision, and that's what you'll want to do when you're walking down trails. So this light's a good thrower and spotlight basically, but it's not a good trail light or anything like that. So now there's no cars, we'll see if it can light up that building. Oh yeah, it can light up the whole side of that building as well as the L2, but it's a wider distribution. But it does light it up to the same illumination because it's got 3 times the power, basically 4 times the power if it's 4,000 lumens. It's a higher efficacy LED that lights it up no problem. So that's about half a kilometer away. Lights up the entire side of that building. We'll compare it to the C8. And the C8 starts to fade at that distance, but it still kind of lights it up. L2, C8. L2, C8. This is the Convoy L6 on ultra low, medium, high, and turbo. So as you can see here, it throws about halfway down the field, and it is very bright close up, so it'll cause glare and blinding at close range. So this is more of a medium to far searchlight or spotlight. Its orange peel reflector allows it to throw light off to the side, so you can see the trees onto the side plus straight down the middle. So it gives a nice gradient between the spot and the field angle. So if you need to search halfway down the field, this thing works pretty well. Then we got the Skyray King, which is not as good at throwing. It probably sees about 1/3 down the field. And as you can see, when I point it up into the sky, you can't see very far. There's a bat flying around trying to eat bugs. And it's pretty blinding up close, but it doesn't really start to wash out the camera when I point at this tree. So it's not super bright because it throws a lot of the light off to the side, and its beam is a little wider than the L6. So this is more of a medium searchlight spotlight, medium distance. Now we've got our Convoy S2 Plus with an XML2 LED and a 10-degree optic. And as you can see, it's got a tighter beam angle than the stock Convoy S2 Plus, and it only sees about 25% down the field because it's only 10 watts compared to the 32 watts, 4000 lumens of the L6. This is only 10 watts, 1000 lumens. Then we've got our Convoy S2 Plus with the XPO HI LED and a 10-degree optic. And this is a little tighter than the XML2 version. So this is the XML, XPO, XML. So the XPO definitely punches more light down into the beam compared to the XML2. It's a warmer white, and this is a cool white, or natural white.
So that tactical ring is not just for putting lanyards and stuff on. It actually allows you to grip onto it and your hand won't slide off the bottom when you go to swing it or something.
This is how you peel a pear.
So this thing is very tough, and we smashed it around, nothing happened to this. We've dropped it, we sprayed it with water, nothing bothers this thing. You chuck it around, no problem. This thing's a beast.
So this thing's running at 13,188 hertz. It's got a flicker index of 0.0 and a percent flicker of 11%. So the pulse width modulation frequency is very high, and 13,000 definitely won't be seen by the naked eye or even cameras. Only high-speed cameras are going to catch that flickering. So this is a very good quality driver, and it runs the LED without making it flicker. So that's pretty good. It runs at 13,000 hertz throughout, even on high, because on high it's limiting the current still, because it's an 8.4 volt driver. So you're going to get some flickering even on high. So this flashlight has that side switch to change modes, and then you've got the tail switch, which just turns on and off power to the flashlight. So you can switch into any of these 4 modes. When you turn the flashlight off, it's going to go back into whatever mode you're in. So ultra low, low, medium, or high. Ultra low gives you 38 lumens, high gets you 3900 lumens. You can double click to get into strobe at any time, single click to get back into whatever mode you were in. Now here's 2 little things you should know about the flashlight. They're not important, but they're just how it works. If you were in strobe and you click to off, it's going to go to your next mode. So if you were in ultra low and you double click to go to strobe, when you turn it off and then turn it back on, it's actually going to go to low. And then it's going to always do the next step. So if you're on high, you double click to go to strobe, you turn it off, then you go back on, it's going to go to ultra low next. So strobe isn't memorized. And it's a forward clicky tail switch, so you can half press to turn it on, and that allows you to do spot checks without clicking. So the 2 main clicks is a single click and a double click, but then I found out there's also a 5 click. If you click it 5 times, it goes to the previous mode, which is handy if you're in ultra low and you want to jump to high really quickly. You press it 5 times and you're on high, or you can press it slowly, 1, 2, 3. It's probably quicker to just press 5 quick clicks. You can press it as fast as you want. So if you're on ultra low, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're already on high. If you go to click 1, 2, 3, that works too. But the problem with that is you might go 1, 2, 3, and then you've gone to strobe, and then you've gone back to ultra low. So don't try to click 1, 2, 3 like that. You're just going to screw yourself up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're always on high. I don't know if they program that in there, but that's just how it works. So there's the mode diagram. That gives you an understanding of how the flashlight works. So that's a high quality driver, and you're not going to see any flicker coming out of it. So it has low battery protection, and when the battery gets really low, it starts to blink like this. Let's take it apart and see what the build quality is like. So we'll start from the tail and work our way up. So counterclockwise to unscrew this. In the Convoy S2 Plus, it's actually the other way around, counter-threaded. Alright, so that's a pretty beefy tail, and that is strong. You could drive over this with a truck, and it will hold up to it. So this is very thick aluminum, and the threads are pretty clean. Pretty happy with that. The tail switch is forward clicky, so you can turn it on and turn it off without actually clicking it on. And that's pretty good because you might need some quick bursts of light. As you can see, they've increased the ampacity and reduced the resistance in the tail by adding a little wire from the top to the bottom, so it bypasses the switch. But it's not a very thick piece of wire, so if you want to increase the efficiency, you can desolder the spring, solder a new wire on there, Now take a look at those square threads. Those are strong and you will never cross thread them. That O-ring's pretty good as well, and it came with silicone grease, so you know they've gone the extra mile. The knurling feels really good, gives you good control of it, and if you hang on to it tight and swing it around, it's no problem keeping a grip on this. So the button is a large silicone button, and this ring pushes down and crushes that silicone button around that edge. So it is very watertight, because if you crank this down very tight, no water is going to be able to get through that rubber button. And the button underneath is just a simple 5mm by 5mm tactile switch, they call it. So if you need to replace that, just look up a tactile switch. The body just unscrews from the head. Then we've got our driver, and it also has a wire bypassing the spring. This also releases with a counterclockwise action. The button actually pops out, and you have to pop out that little plastic ring to get that button out. So then you can desolder the button. So a 30mm driver. So any 30mm driver that's good for 8.4 volts will work inside this body. You've got your lens with an anti-reflective coating, so it lets through all the light. You've got your nice aluminum orange peel reflector, probably medium orange peel. Then you've got your beast of an LED right there. Extra high power, XHP 70. And it's got a nice plastic ring to hold it in place. The screws are machine screws, not sheet metal screws, so they've actually drilled and tapped into the body, into this plate. And this is a built-in shelf, as they call it. And what that means is it's a one-piece body. So a 21mm star is 20.8mm in diameter. So if you order anything that's on a 21mm star, it'll fit inside this. No problem. The XHP 70 needs to sit on a copper star, otherwise it's going to melt. There appears to be thermal grease on there, but not very much. If you want to make this last a little longer, give it more reliability, put some good thermal grease on there. So if you want to remove this, just remove the driver, get yourself some slack. You can remove the wires, replace that with a $12 LED, and you can replace this driver and mod it, see if you can push a little more amps to it. This is an easily modifiable flashlight, and I give it a 10 out of 10 for that rating. This is a nice lens here, and if you screw that on nice and tight, this thing will definitely be waterproof. Usually the side switches let water in, but this side switch, with this clamping force of this ring pushing down on it, definitely will protect it from getting wet. So this is a very well built flashlight, and Convoy has gone above and beyond what you expect of them. From threading these two screws instead of just putting sheet metal screws in, to making a very watertight side switch. There's a good driver in there. This brass ring's nice and strong. It's not going to cross thread. I can't complain about the body at all. This is nice thick aluminum. This aluminum is 3.94mm thick, so it's pretty thick. This is a very strong body, and I don't think this thing's going to bend or break anytime soon. This flashlight was made very strong. You can smash it around, smash stuff with it. When we put the LED back in, make sure you put lots of thermal grease underneath it. So if we can melt this, and you've got it in a black backpack, polyester backpack, it will melt through, so be careful. It's about 32 watts out of an aperture that's pretty big, so it shouldn't melt it, but it does look like it's half melting it. So it's not as intense as the Convoy S2 Plus. This is a high powered flashlight. Make sure you turn it half a turn so it can't turn on anymore. Because if that thing turns on in your pocket, it's going to melt plastic, burn through your backpack, your jacket pocket, whatever. It can't really do a tail stand, but it can stand on its tail. It's a little wobbly. So we've taken a look at this light. We know all the features. We've compared it to all the other lights. This is a big light compared to the other ones, so only get this if you want something that's really big, and you don't need to put it in a pocket. You can stick it in a bag, or you can walk around site with it. So if you're doing night shift or something and you don't need to carry too much stuff, then this will probably work well for you. If you just need to walk around and look at things, then this is a fine light. But if you need something smaller, definitely get something around this size. Then you can carry it around with you. It's light, you can run around, you don't have to worry about it. This one is definitely a hefty beast. So this is only good if you need a lot of light, a lot of throw, combined with some floodlight, and you need long run times. There's two 26650 batteries in here, so it'll last you an hour on high, and it'll last you 100 hours on moonlight if you need it to. So if the power goes out, this is a perfect light. You can use this for 4 days straight, so you'll probably last 8 days with this, just with one pair of batteries. Comes with a nice tactical ring. I keep that one on there because it makes it roll a little less, and it also gives you something to grip onto so you don't drop it or lose it too easily. The beam shot's pretty impressive. If you need to have long throw and good flood and huge amounts of light, then this is the one to go with. It has some pretty good features. I like the side switch on this thing and the power button on the back. So anytime you want to get back to moonlight, you can always get back to moonlight. Or if you leave it on high, you can always get back to high, no problem. Keep in mind it's a forward click key, so you can momentarily turn it on. You don't have to click it on. So if you're doing some searches and you just need to turn it on momentarily, that works really well. It doesn't have SOS, but you can do SOS with your thumb. So I guess a lot of lights don't have SOS anymore because people haven't found it very useful, and they think it's just a feature that's never going to be used. If you think it's going to be used and you want SOS, then you may want to look at getting another light or modifying this driver so it does have SOS. This is a slightly modifiable light. You can increase the current to it by modifying the driver. You can add thicker wires to the springs to bypass them. The tail switch is already pretty good, so you don't need to really change that. This is a very waterproof light because that thing clamps down on this rubber, and so does the tail switch, so nothing's getting into this light. I wouldn't go scuba diving with it or anything, but if you drop it into the water, you don't have to worry about it. The construction is very good. It's high quality. This is a very thick glass lens. It can break if you smash it around too much, obviously. The LED allows it to be smashed around. It's all solid state, and you don't have to worry about anything breaking. So you can drop it, it'll keep on working. So in conclusion, I highly recommend this light for people looking for a lot of light in a large form factor. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. So to quickly describe the benefits of dedoming, here's two different LEDs. One has a dome and one is de-domed from the factory. If you actually de-dome that, more of the light's going to hit the reflector and more of that light's going to go down to your beam. So if you want a thrower, that's the benefit to de-doming. So let's say for instance the Skyray King. It's got all domes on all 7 LEDs, but those reflectors are tiny. So very little of that light is going off to the side and getting directed down the beam. That's why the Skyray King is such a flutter. It's more efficient to have the LED shoot the light straight out, getting 100% of the light coming off your LED, but you're not getting that down the middle. So if you want your light to output a little less out the front lumens and throw more light down the beam, then just de-dome all those and you'll get more light out hitting the reflector, get more light down into the middle, and that becomes more useful if you're trying to use the light for a spotlight, trying to see across an entire field or across an entire farm. The Convoy L2 actually ships some of them with XPL HIs, so that makes a very good thrower because all that light's going off to the side and getting pushed down the beam. Very little of that light is getting thrown off directly off the LED. So it gets a little less out the front lumens than a light with a dome, like let's say a C8 with a dome, but it does give you way more throw and you can see super far with the L2. It's just a tiny little spot. It's bad for walking down trails because you just get a spotlight and that glares right in front of you, makes it so you can't see much. The C8 is better for trail walking because it pushes more of the light out to the sides, and that's what you need to see in your peripheral when you're walking down trails. The Convoy S2 Plus could even benefit from de-doming, but it'll still hit that reflector and get focused down the middle. You can actually buy an optic, a plastic optic that's 10 degrees, and replace your reflector with that, and then you'll get actually a better beam with that. if you dedome the LED and put it inside that 10-degree reflector, you're going to get more light off into the side of the optic and down the middle. So if you're trying to get a good beam angle and get lots of punch, then dedoming will always help you out. So I hope that explains quickly what dedoming can do for you, and if you want a thrower, it's definitely the way to go. So dedoming will work in your C8, S2 Plus, Skyray King, and your L6. It'll even work for the L6, which has an XHP 70 in there. You can dedome that sucker. Just make sure you don't damage it, because that's an expensive LED. So I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.